Personal finance is one of those things we all wish we understood better. This video is going to teach you how to do personal finance. You'll learn all about saving, budgeting, and investing, and everything else that they didn't teach you in school. Before getting started, make sure to personally invest in this video's exposure by clicking the like button to make sure that more people are able to see this awesome information. While you're down there, also make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos come out every Friday. They'll help you live a life you love through personal finance and self-improvement. Personal finance is essentially just how you deal with money, whether that's in the present in terms of your spending or in the future in terms of how much you save and what you invest. Personal finance will also cover how you deal with money that's tied to your relationships, like saving money for a child's college education. A FINRA study in 2018 showed that only 34% of US adults were able to answer 4 out of 5 basic financial literacy questions. We're going to tackle 9 different personal finance topics that you can get started with right now to become more financially literate, unlike most Americans, and to become more financially stable. Number 1, budgeting. This is the best thing to start out with if you don't already currently have one in place. A budget is going to track how much money you make, and then how you should divvy that money up to cover your expenses, personal spending, your savings, and your investments. The old adage is to use what's called the 50-30-20 rule. This says that 50% of your income should go toward mandatory expenses, another 30% towards discretionary spending, things like eating out or spending money on your hobby, and then the last 20% should go toward your future. That's your savings and your investments. This may be a good place to start, but these percentages might not be the ideal breakdown for everyone's budget. To start your budget, first figure out how much you make each month. Then start to write out your mandatory expenses. These are the things that you're going to have to pay every month. This is going to include your mortgage or rent payment, groceries, paying down loans, or just anything else that you can't afford to not pay. You can check out your previous bank or credit card statement to figure out how much you pay for these different expenses on average each month. Then sum up all of the monthly expenses and divide that by your monthly income to figure out what percentage of your monthly income must go toward covering your mandatory expenses. If this number is below 50%, that's a good thing. This means that you're going to have more money to save and invest, or you could spend it on things that you don't need but that you want. The next step is going to be to repeat this process, but for your typical monthly purchases of non-essential things like eating out or clothes shopping. This category is called your discretionary income. In most budgets, this is going to be the line item that you're going to want to decrease the most. We've all seen the different articles about how much millennials are spending on coffee every year, and honestly, the same thing is likely true about you, and something you spend money on that could be better spent investing in your future. However much money is left over from your mandatory expenses and covering your discretionary spending, that will be the percentage of your income that should go towards saving and investing. Pretty much all of it should go toward investing after you've completed number 2, creating an emergency fund. We live in a turbulent time, and we all occasionally hit some bad luck. This is why it's important to have some money saved and set aside. That money is going to take care of you in case something goes wrong. And this could be anything from losing your job to needing repairs for your car. The rule of thumb is to save up 3 to 6 months worth of mandatory expenses in your emergency fund. How much you would like to save in that range really depends on your personal risk tolerance. It's also going to depend on your income security or just how stable your job is. You can always start with a 3-month fund and then save more if you feel like it's not enough. In terms of your budget, your invest and save category should all go toward building that emergency fund until it's finished. While investing as soon as possible is extremely important, as we'll talk about later, investing is going to be for the long term, and then your emergency fund is going to protect you in the short term. After you have your emergency fund created, you'll be able to start investing in your future. However, before you can start stacking stocks and riding that market, you'll have to take care of something else that can harm you dramatically in both the short and the long term. And that's number 3, limiting your debts. Debt is actually a necessary part of life. It builds your credit score, as we'll see later, and it's one of the only ways that most people are able to afford large purchases such as homes, cars, or degrees. So if you need debt to build out your credit score, which is going to allow you to pay less interest as you borrow money, then how do you limit the debt you take on? That's going to be about being strategic with this debt. Lenders like to see you take different types of credit. That way there's a diversity in your borrowing history. This can be as simple as having student loans, a car payment, and credit cards. Having these different accounts boosts the diversity of your credit profile, which also boosts your credit score. The best way to limit these different categories is going to be to pay the minimum monthly amount on the student loan and car payments, and then to make sure to pay off your monthly credit card balance in full. That way you accrue no interest. At the same time, you're going to be improving your credit score. Now, some people like to live debt-free. However, paying off all of your accounts early can actually hurt you and decrease your credit score because it's going to lower your average age of credit and your number of open accounts. And these are both factors that determine your credit score. Number 4, be smart with your credit cards. We talked about the obvious thing, which is to pay off your monthly balance in full every month. But there's other things you can do to get more value out of your credit cards. First, take advantage of the cash back deals that they offer. Cards that offer a flat percentage cash back on all purchases with no minimum are going to be your best bet and give you the best value. If you're applying for your first credit card, it may make more sense to go for the card that you're going to be pre-approved for through your bank. And this is just going to be in case you don't have a good enough credit score to get approved for other cards with better cashback deals. And second, pay attention to your credit utilization. This is the percentage of your maximum credit that you use. You want to keep this below 30% of your maximum credit per credit line because credit utilization has a big impact on number 5, your credit score. There are 5 factors which determine your FICO credit score. In order from the most to the least important, we have your on-time payment history, level of credit utilization, hard inquiries, which are when lenders check your credit history when you apply for a new line of credit, the average age of your credit, and having various types of credit. This is the range for FICO credit scores. The higher this number, the more trustworthy you will be seen in the eyes of lenders, and therefore, the less you're going to have to pay in interest when you borrow money. Having a good credit score is important because it's going to help you finance a car, a home, or any other large purchase for a lower interest rate. Over time, this saves you a lot of money. In fact, it may be cheap enough to borrow capital that you can do what's called leveraging. You borrow money to invest and profit if that investment's rate of return is higher than the interest rate at which you borrowed the funds. This is very common in real estate, and it brings up number 6, investing. This is going to be one of the most important things you can do in personal finance. For every dollar that you invest today, that's less money you're going to need to have in the future. There's something called the time value of money, which says that the more time your money has to grow, the quicker and more exponential this growth becomes. This is why it's important to invest as soon as you can and with as much as you can. Regarding your budget, you should really try to cut down your mandatory expenses and discretionary spending to their minimums. This way, you'll be able to have more money to invest in your future. Although, of course, make sure to budget in fun money into your discretionary spending. That way you don't go crazy. If you want more details about smart ways that you can get started investing and what strategies to use, you can check out my investing strategies video. The short version is that the best way to invest is going to be to dollar cost average your way into broad market index funds by investing a set dollar amount every week or month. Now, investing is also very important for number 7, dealing with retirement. Depending on how old you are, retirement might be a really long way away. And that's a good thing because the longer that your retirement is from right now, the more time your money is going to have to grow. For example, there's something called the rule of 72. This says if you take the number 72 and then divide it by a given rate of return, that's how long it's going to take you to double your money. If we take a historical average of a 10% return in the stock market every year, that means our money is going to double on average every 7.2 years. So if you start investing early, you'll have more periods of 7.2 years for your money to double. And if you invest a lot, that doubling is going to net you more and more money and also sooner. Investing is going to be the best way to save for retirement since saving money is actually going to lose you money over time due to inflation. This is the idea that money loses its purchasing power over time as more money gets printed, thus lowering its value. Now, investing for retirement can also offer great advantages, which we're going to see in number 8, taking advantage of tax breaks. You've probably heard of some tax advantage investment accounts such as the 401k or the Roth IRA. Tax advantage means that you're going to get special tax privileges for using one of these accounts versus using a normal brokerage account. If you want more details, you can check out my investing for beginners video. You should max out, and if not, come as close to maxing out the contributions you make to both of these accounts every year if you have access to them. The 401k is an employer-sponsored plan, and that's going to allow you to contribute $19,500 a year in pre-tax income. Now, this is a lot of money, so it's going to be hard to max out. At the very least, contribute up to what amount or percentage that your employer is going to match if they offer such a benefit. Typically, 401ks are going to be tax deferred, and that means you're going to pay your income taxes once you withdraw the money from the account. Now, sadly, tax deferral isn't as good as it seems, and this is because most of us expect to make more money as we get older. And the more money you make, any additional income then is likely going to be taxed at a higher tax bracket. Additionally, taxes tend to only increase in the United States. And this is the main benefit of the Roth IRA. It is tax-free since you're contributing post-tax income up to $6,000 per year. This money is also going to grow completely tax-free, including your investment profits. Also, with tax advice, if possible, you should try to take advantage of every tax break you can get. Things like tax deductions and tax credits, such as caring for a dependent child. Now, this is a highly complex topic due to the tax code and constantly changing regulations, so this subject would be best discussed with a tax professional. Number 9, the family aspects of personal finance. This is going to cover a broad range of topics. The biggest is likely insurance. Now, I've worked in insurance, and not the cool parts, so I can guarantee that this is also a very complicated subject, and that it's going to be very dependent on your specific situation. I would also recommend talking to a professional about this subject. Now, insurance is also going to touch on the idea of what happens to your money when you're no longer around. You need to make sure that this is specified with a will. And this is more important the older you get, and especially if you have a family. Even if you're young, if you have assets or an atypical family situation, you might want to set up a will as well. Now for the next subject, if you're planning on having kids or already have them, this is a big expense that's going to need additional planning. One of these large expenses is education. One thing you can do to save up for college is to utilize a 529 plan. This is going to allow you to save and invest for your child's educational expenses in college. So these were 9 helpful things you can get started with today to embark on your personal finance journey. If you learned something useful, make sure to like the video and to subscribe. You'll see new content that comes out every Friday. Comment below with anything I can help answer about getting started with your personal finance journey. And while you're down there, also make sure to check out my social media links in the description. Click the video on screen to watch another that you're going to enjoy, and then please add some music, some personal finance, or whatever else it is that you love to your day.
Add some music, just add some music to your day.